Hey everybody, welcome into this Friday edition of Wiltfong Whiparound. Grace Remington here with our Director of Recruiting at 24/7 Sports, Steve Wiltfong. We're jumping right into these headlines today, starting with an update on the nation's #4 overall prospect, five-star defensive end Colin Simmons. Steve, he begins his spring visits this weekend, so where's he headed?
Yeah, the #1 ranked edge rusher per the 24/7 Sports composite. He's going to be at Arizona State, where he has a great relationship with Coach Samples there. He's the son of his head coach. So that is the reason why he's going out to Arizona State, but he wants to see something different, taking that vibe. Obviously, new coaching staff over there with Kenny Dillingham and company. So a lot of excitement around the program. He's going to be at Arizona State this weekend, but he's got some upcoming visits to Texas, Texas A&M, USC, Colorado, Florida. So those are programs he's also very excited about right now. Florida could be in line for a return visit in June. His mom mentioned that to me as well, because she's not going to be on the first trip to Gainesville, but she's looking forward to getting down to Gainesville in June. One program that's not going to get a visit, or that's not scheduled for one right now, but I think is an excellent position, is LSU. He's been to Baton Rouge several times, says it feels like home, loves the coaching staff there, loves the vibe, loves the diversity at LSU. Georgia's another program that he visited in the winter that really moved the needle for him, had a fantastic time at Georgia. And he said he wants to get down to Alabama again, get out to Tennessee. So there's a lot of programs in the mix for Colin Simmons right now, but LSU is one that I know has positioned themselves well early. The Texas Longhorns is a place that he's very familiar with. Texas A&M is a program where he likes their player development, not only physically but mentally. He's clicked with that coaching staff, thinks he could be very successful within the Aggies program. But his recruitment is really now about to start ramping up with these spring visits as he goes out and sees some places for the first time and returning to some other schools that have been favorites of his for a long one.
All right, we know how dominant Georgia is on the recruiting trail. Top 5 classes every year since 2017. They're top of the 2024 cycle, and looking to add to that this weekend. Dylan Raiola and Williams Nwaneri will be the headliners on campus. What can we expect to hear out of Athens this weekend?
Yeah, and Wiltfong Whiparound, a regular topic, Ryan Wingo also making his way down to Georgia this weekend. Dylan Raiola, it's been a long time since he's been to Athens. Long before he was the #1 ranked prospect in the country, long before he had scholarship offers from all the powerhouse programs from coast to coast, he had just one offer, and it was Georgia, and they got him to Athens several times. And they were the early favorite in this recruitment. He talks with Mike Bobo regularly. He's excited to get back to Georgia. He went to their national championship game against TCU. He loves the standard. He understands the kind of players that he could play around at Georgia. He loves the stage of the SEC, and certainly loves the way that Kirby Smart has built up his alma mater. So he's excited to get back to Georgia for the first time in a while. Coming into this visit, obviously my crystal ball is on USC, so I think the Trojans have set the tone as of late in this recruitment. But this is one that's this is a recruitment that's had pulse changes, and so Georgia very much in the mix here. He's going to be at Nebraska next week, and the Huskers have a great shot of landing Dylan Raiola. He's going to be at Oregon's spring game. While he's in town visiting Georgia, he's going to go over to Georgia Tech and visit with his old friend Buster Faulkner, who was one of the coaches that he clicked with at Georgia. Now he's the offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. So big visit for Georgia here, getting Dylan Raiola back on campus as they try and sign 2 quarterbacks here in the 2024 cycle. Williams Nwaneri is taking his first visit to campus. He was just at LSU this past weekend. He's been to Oklahoma a ton. He's been to Missouri a ton. He's been to Oregon twice. I think Oklahoma and Oregon are 2 schools that I think are in very intriguing positions. You got Tennessee in this one, but certainly Georgia, their track record, particularly on defense, and then again, particularly on the defensive line, I would imagine this will be a needle-moving visit for them. And then Ryan Wingo, he's never been. He was just at Alabama. I think that Alabama visit was an awesome one for the Wingo camp. 24/7 Sports 5-star composite receiver from St. Louis. My crystal ball is on Tennessee for him, but that Alabama visit definitely gave him a lot to think about. I could see Alabama being the team that maybe is the one to beat right now for Ryan Wingo, but a lot of programs in play for him. He's also going to be at Nebraska next week. Took a recent visit to Colorado. Notre Dame's pushing hard. You got Oregon. You got Penn State, Texas A&M, so many programs that he's been able to visit and see. First time visiting Georgia, I expect it to be a good one. But Grace, there's going to be a lot of prospects on campus. Guys like DeMello Jones from Swainsboro, one of the best two-way players in the state. I have him forecasted to the Bulldogs on the crystal ball. So it's going to be a very exciting recruiting weekend in Georgia as they continue to try and add to the #1 recruiting class in the country.
And another exciting weekend up north. Michigan fans will be happy to hear this. Five-star quarterback Jadyn Davis is headed back to campus. An opportunity for him to connect with newly promoted quarterbacks coach Kirk Campbell. But he's just one of several key targets up on campus this weekend as Michigan looks to add to its 5th-ranked class. So what can you tell us about what's going on in Ann Arbor?
Yeah, and we talked about Jadyn Davis on the last whip around. He's going to get to see a spring practice and then a scrimmage. As you said, get around Coach Campbell for the first time in person. Coach Campbell already has J.J. McCarthy's blessing. They're excited to get around J.J. McCarthy, see how the team has continued to develop. They got big goals at Michigan. 2 straight playoff appearances. That's not what they're looking for. They want to win a couple of those playoff games, and I think they're bringing back a very talented football team. And I know Jadyn Davis is very excited to get up there and see it for himself. Some other big-time names that are on campus this weekend. Jordan Marshall's a running back from Cincinnati that he's got Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Tennessee on his short list. I like where Michigan's positioned here. That doesn't mean I'm sleeping on the Buckeyes. I could easily see him picking Ohio State. But I think Mike Hart in Michigan has done a fantastic job for maybe the best running back prospect in the Midwest in this cycle. He's been to campus several times. Going to come back for an official visit. But Michigan, the way they run the football behind that 2-time Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line with that 800-pound trophy that wows recruits when they come on campus, I think Michigan is in a very, very good spot for Jordan Marshall coming into another visit to campus, but they got to keep recruiting him as he's got several other really good options. A couple other guys to highlight. Blake Frazier's an offensive lineman from Lone Star State, legacy recruit. He's made a lot of rounds. A lot of schools have impressed him, but until someone tells me different, I like Michigan's position for Blake Frazier. I think that they're in a really good spot coming into this return visit. Aaron Scott's a defensive back from Springfield, Ohio, who's on campus. The crystal ball is all Ohio State right now, but I think that Michigan is a program that's certainly in the thick of that one. And as Michigan looks for more athletic linebackers, guys that are very versatile on the defensive side of the ball. A player to kind of highlight that's visiting this weekend is linebacker safety rover type Michael Boganowski. He's from the state of Kansas. He's a 4-sport athlete. Grace had 123 tackles, if I remember correctly, in 10 games, but he forces a lot of turnovers, makes things happen on special teams, makes plays on offense. Michigan offered him last week. They're quickly getting him to campus. And when you look at some of these linebackers that Michigan's in the middle of it for, Aaron Childs, Michael Boganowski, they're attracting some of the most athletic defensive players in the country on defense right now. And here's another really good one coming to campus this weekend on the heels of receiving his offer.
So an interesting recruitment to watch, I think, is Gatlin Bair, the 4-star wide receiver out of Idaho. I was just reading, he recently received an offer from Florida after not really having a relationship with them. I feel like that has something to do with Billy Gonzalez just being hired there, but what's the latest with Gatlin Bair?
Yeah, and sometimes, schools, they get to even get in the game. You got to get an offer. You got to get some skin in the game, right? And so Gatlin Bair is a guy that's highly recruited right now, and there's some schools that have certainly started to emerge in this recruitment here. First of all, this is one of the fastest players in the country. He recently beat Roderick Pleasant in a 60-meter dash at an indoor track meet. Roderick Pleasant, who signed with Oregon, cornerback in last cycle, maybe one of the most coveted sprinters in the country on Oregon's track board. Gatlin Bair, this young man out of Burley, Idaho, beats him in a 60-meter dash to just show the kind of speed he has. 73 receptions, 1,073 yards, 18 touchdowns as a junior. There's some schools in the mix here. He's going to be at Nebraska next weekend for that massive recruiting weekend in Lincoln. I think that they're a major contender for him. Texas is another program that he's going to visit soon. The Longhorns are very much a major player for Gatlin Bair. Then you have Boise State. You have Oregon in the mix for him as well. So Michigan, Nebraska, Boise State, Oregon, Texas. Those are 5 programs that I think are in a really good spot for Gatlin Bair here.
All right, and we have a 2024 quarterback commitment coming up pretty soon. Davi Belfort out of Miami will announce March 22nd. He ranks 27th in the class among quarterbacks, and he is deciding between Virginia Tech, Texas A&M, and Michigan State. So where do you think he's leaning?
Well, there was a time where I thought that Michigan State was the clear program to beat, but as he gets closer to his decision, Virginia Tech is a program that has a lot of momentum here. Had a great visit there in December. Talked to him after that December visit. Got to spend some quality time with the coaching staff. I think he fits. He feels like he fits their offense perfectly. And look, he was the #1 target on their board at the position. And so I think that means something to him. But he talked about the culture that Coach Fry and that staff is building and said that they're all about family. And he loves that. And he also views Virginia Tech as a place where I think he thinks he can come in as a true freshman and compete. So, again, Michigan State was a program I liked early. I think as he draws nearer to his decision, it's Virginia Tech that has the momentum here.
All right, well, let's get into our mailbag questions now. Thank you, everybody, for sending those in. We're going to start with a question from B. Rayleigh. Bryce Underwood is a name that gets talked about a lot in 2025. Who are some other quarterbacks that you like in that cycle?
Yeah, so one guy that I like a lot in that class is Antoine Hill out of Warner Robins, Georgia, Houston County. Last big-time quarterback they had out of there was Jake Fromm, who led Georgia to a national title game and had a really good career in college. And this is a young man that is one of the most coveted players at the position, was recently offered during his visit to Alabama. Auburn was another school that offered when he was on campus recently. He's got over 20 offers. He is quickly becoming one of the most coveted players at the position in the SEC. And then another quarterback that I like in that class is Cutter Boley out of the state of Kentucky. Got a chance to see him compete at the Battle Miami 7-on-7 event in the summer. He's been on my radar for a while, but a big, strong arm, accurate passer that also has a huge offer list with programs like Kentucky and Tennessee making a big impression on him early in his process.
Our next question from Big L. To land Dylan Raiola, do you think Nebraska needs to secure other blue chip recruitments first as a way to entice him to go to Lincoln?
No, I think that I think that Dylan Raiola, he's got some very interesting options on the table, right? You got Lincoln Riley, USC, his pedigree at the position. You have Georgia, the success that they've had as a team holistically, Stetson Bennett being a Heisman finalist and all of that, and the type of players he could play around at Georgia is exciting. But when you talk about Nebraska, one thing that when I talk to Dylan and his family, it's like when they talk about the best quarterbacks in the NFL, it's not like those guys went to blue blood U for the most part, right? And so it's not like they feel like they have to. Dylan feels like he has to go to a blue blood school to hear his name called early in the NFL draft or achieve his dreams on the next level. I mean, you look at the first quarterback drafted last year was Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. So I think he's certainly talking to a lot of recruits. He's a very outgoing guy that's built a lot of relationships with his peers in 2024. And so within that realm, I think that he does heat checks with guys on where Nebraska is at with them to get a feel for who Nebraska could realistically get from his circle. But beyond that, I think he just ultimately believes in Coach Rule as a program builder, a guy that has a track record of success going back to Temple, certainly what he did at Baylor, and believes that whatever personnel that they have at Nebraska, it's a program on the rise because Matt Rule's in the corner office. Now, I think that spring ball, he's excited to see Coach Satterfield get in there and see what kind of development that the Nebraska quarterback room has had and how that offense is evolving there under Coach Rule, Coach Satterfield, and staff. But I mean, it's not, I don't think there's an expectation where Ryan Wingo has to go to Nebraska or I'm not going to Nebraska, or Gatlin Bair has to go to Nebraska or I'm not going to Nebraska. Nebraska is well positioned for Dylan Raiola. And if he picks Nebraska, he's going to be a magnet for other people to come join him, not even just necessarily in 2024, but that would resonate with 2025 as well.
All right. And our final question from Sooner Schooner. Are you worried about Oklahoma's 2024 class since they currently have no commitments?
I am not worried about Oklahoma's class because, look, they had a top 5 class last year. It's a class, it's a program that has traditionally been in the top 10 for us year in and year out at 24/7 Sports. And I think the staff showed us what they were capable of last cycle on the trail with some big wins down the stretch, and just what they did as a whole in recruiting the number 4 class in the country. I think that Oklahoma's got some big visit weekends coming up. That's when they really heat up with events like the Champ U Barbecue. That's really going to put them in position with top targets. And you see them near the top of the list for a lot of elite guys, whether that's Williams Nwaneri or David Stone on the defensive line. They're in really good position for 4-star quarterback Michael Hawkins, who's going to announce his college commitment soon. Maybe you get some momentum out of that. They're near the top of the list for a lot of offensive linemen, guys like Bennett Warren and Casey Poe come to mind, but Bill Beatenbaugh works it as hard as anybody in the country at that position. And so I just think for Oklahoma, it's more just a matter of, hey, the guys that they're in the mix for, the guys that they maybe lead for, the Tavani Mazzels of the world, they're just not, their decision timeline isn't now, where other schools have maybe got some momentum earlier because the guys that they were recruiting, their decision timeline was a little more current. But no, Oklahoma, when all said and done, I would think that they're going to sign a very exciting recruiting class when you see the guys that they've been getting to campus, guys that have Oklahoma on their short list.
All right, good insight as always. Well, that's a wrap for us, keeping this episode short and sweet. Remember, you can follow recruiting updates throughout the weekend on 247sports.com. And on your way out of here, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. For Steve Wiltfong, I'm Grace Remington. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here on Monday.